Hello horror fans! Welcome to another edition of Silver Screams. Today we are talking about Scream, episode 3 from season 1. I'm invested.
Yeah!
When did that happen?
It just, right away. Within 10 minutes of this episode. They burned 2 episodes and then this one was like,
well,
tell me
no.
more.
The first episode had sprinkles here and there of really recognizable Scream stuff.
True.
And then the second episode had a great opening and a great ending.
And nothing.
And this episode, it's like, okay, here we go. And it's less focused on hitting Scream beat by beat.
And more focused on actually being a good, interesting show, which, yeah, once they stopped being like, we need to be the movie but made into a show, and started being, we need to be a show. Then it got good.
Because I'm super intrigued by this mystery, because every week we're getting a little bit more information about what happened. And actually the opening of this episode was two of the murders as speculated by Noah, because we have the details, and so it was his retelling of it. Actually, we didn't mention it last week, our Gail Weathers stand-in. She's a podcaster, very similar to the serial podcaster in the real world.
In real life.
Yeah. And so I thought that was an interesting change, because Gail Weathers is very much the
traditional reporter.
Go get 'em reporter. She's going to get her story at any cost. This girl, she's hanging out in a coffee shop. Just yeah, if you want to talk to me, whatever. And I don't know if that's
she's also less likely to get punched by our Sydney Prescott, so...
At least for right now. She is hanging out at the coffee shop where Emma works.
True.
So that's the thing, is because she is our essential Gail Weathers, I don't know if the kind of laid back, I'm just looking for the truth attitude is an act, or if it's way more, or if that's actually how she is.
Well, we may have her teaming up with someone later who has more of the personality but less of the reporting skills, in much the same way we have a person who's very much Randy, but not the only one who knows the rules.
Exactly.
We've got the teacher who's also kind of playing that role in some capacity.
We have Audrey, who is, the one who actually holds the camera.
Yeah.
Randy, I don't think, ever held a camera.
That's true. Well, that was more of a scriform thing.
Yeah. I like that you call it scriform.
Why wouldn't I? S-C-R-E-4-M. Come on.
You didn't invent it, though. That was Jeremy Johns.
I don't care if I didn't invent it. I adopted it.
Give credit where credit is due.
I didn't remember where it came from.
It was Jeremy Johns.
Okay, thank you, Jeremy Johns. I'm going with scriform.
Yeah. Anywho, but
because that's relevant.
Kind of interesting. Just the fact that Noah is talking to this, to not Gail Weathers at the very beginning of this episode, because I thought her being, and I know we didn't talk about it last time, but I thought her being introduced was a very interesting way to kind of incorporate the reporter. The reporter character.
We gotta have one.
Yeah, and so I thought that was interesting, because we have our sheriff, we have, the parent.
The kids, the boyfriend.
Another interesting parallel, if we're talking about parallels to the movies, though, another interesting parallel, the cat.
There's a cat in the room, and she is super intrigued by the tripod. So if you hear meowing, that's her.
It's her going,
and
what
her
is
2
this?
cents. But she didn't watch the episode, so she doesn't get to have an opinion on the after show.
Doesn't count. Anyway, an interesting parallel that I found was that the sheriff can't get a hold of Emma's father.
That's true.
And that was a huge plot point in the first Scream, was that for a long time he was very much a prime suspect, because no one could find him. He wasn't where he was supposed to be. He was supposed to be out on business. He never checked into the hotel.
This was the era before cell phones, so...
Well, no, there were cell phones, but they were very rare.
Widespread.
That's why it was such a big deal when her boyfriend dropped a cell phone. Yeah. That's why I was like, mind blown.
But here at least not yet, we don't know why they're looking for Dad yet, because that is something that Daisy did not answer. And Daisy, it looks like, is not going to be voluntarily answering a lot of stuff, because Kiddo had to figure it out via the police report.
Well, via the police report and from cryptic messages from the killer.
Yes.
After the phone call, he sent her, I guess, a direct message. I don't know.
Did you have a heart-to-heart with Mom?
Like,
I love it that it hurts.
I'm not a big pun person.
A heartbreaker. She's gonna kill me.
I was gonna say, I'm not a big pun person, but that was pretty clever.
It was pretty good.
That was pretty clever.
I wanted to know what the hell he was direct messaging her on, because they made a very, very big point of not saying texting. They said they're DMing. Like, most social networks where DMing is a thing, you have to be friended with the person and you see where it's coming from. You don't get to anonymously DM people on Facebook or Twitter.
Actually, you kind of can.
Twitter, you have to be a mutual follow in order to DM.
Actually, what they have now is a function where you can DM anybody, but luckily Twitter has it as a function where it's automatically turned off. You have to turn it on for anyone to DM you. So that's actually a thing. For me, I just assumed it was a text message.
Yeah.
And that, because this is also a series, as much as I'm enjoying it now, it's also a series that is clearly written by adults who don't quite understand
kids these days and their technology.
It's not
700 views and the video's gone viral. Please. 700 views and it's broken the internet. How big is the internet in your town? Is it still a series of tubes?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that, like, that is probably my biggest criticism of the show at the moment, is that it kind of acts like it knows more about internet culture than it actually does.
Don't act like you know. And the thing is, it's aimed at us, at our demographic, and we grew up with internet culture, and we kind of created internet culture, and so for it to be like, oh yeah, 700 reviews went viral, and oh, they're DMing me, and oh,
I don't think you know what viral means.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
Yeah. Insert a meme here.
Yeah, pretty much.
Do you know what a meme is?
Waiting for them to misuse memes.
Yeah.
Like, and now it's a meme.
But what this show lacks in internet culture comprehension, it's actually doing really well in building suspense.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. It did drive me a little bit crazy that Daisy just didn't come out and say, like, okay, now that you've pieced this together, I'm going to tell you the truth, because you clearly know more. Because that's the other thing, is Emma was keeping the fact that she had gotten a call from the killer a secret from her mother, you know, a second call.
And the cliffhanger didn't ever pan out. We didn't ever see how that finished, and it just kind of...
It was just, I'm watching you.
Yeah,
see ya.
Surprise.
But,
and then he DM'd her.
I actually really appreciated how that ended. I'm actually 100% satisfied that it didn't just pick up in her house again. I thought that was a great bookend to that episode.
I would have been okay with either.
I thought it was great because it was very clear, at least to me, it felt like a cliffhanger, but at the same time to me, that felt like a good place for somebody taking up the mantle of Ghostface to leave somebody.
Yeah.
It was very clever. It was very good.
Plus, only one of them might have been available that night.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not the first time he's called somebody just to say, hey,
just to fuck with them.
I know something you don't know. Have a good night.
Your life is a lie. Your mom's a terrible person.
Looks like you fingered the wrong guy again. Just that's from the first one. Anyway, actually, you bring up a good point because it was something that Emma, when she was confronting her mother, she brought up, was the fact that he was saying really terrible things about her. And it was specifically the word whore. This is, I actually do think that this is kind of important because this is something that is kind of the motive. There's a lot of internalized misogyny within the motivation of many a ghost-faced killer. And I think...
You don't say.
Well, no.
Or revenge. It's one or the other.
Yeah, and, well, sometimes it's less about that, but at the very least, three of the people who have taken up the mantle of Ghostface were very much... It was a very much internalized misogyny thing. Even when the killer was...
bad.
Yeah, even when the killer was a woman, there was a lot of internalized misogyny, and yeah, hers was also borderline revenge, but it was also very much a... yeah, like I said, misogyny is a good word for it.
Yeah.
So I thought that's very interesting that we're keeping that initial motivation, and how that is a strong motivator for our killer. At the same time, our hero is somebody who is in fact a woman who has to rise up and conquer that.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to like make a feminist point or anything like that, but I just found it interesting because it's never been anything that I've thought about before, but that just the fact that Ghostface has a lot of internalized misogyny within the motivation there. I find that interesting.
And I do love the choose between the good girl and the bad girl thing. That has not happened before, and that was brilliant and heartbreaking, and not the first time that someone has thought they could outthink Ghostface to the detriment of both themselves and others.
Yeah, let's talk about Riley.
Oh, man. See, and this is the problem with caring.
Yeah, no. And this was my point that we were talking about in the last episode, where you're not supposed to like the people who get axed. I think that that's the case in bad horror movies or horror comedies. This one, like, really good, effective slashers do make you care about the people.
And they talked about this in episode 1.
Exactly.
You have to take the time and build up this and that and the other and the relationship and the whatnot, and then you start killing them. The thing is, they started killing people we like, and the people we still don't give a fuck about are fine.
Yeah, Brooke.
Which,
okay, I still want to talk about Riley, but as a temporary segue, if you're a teacher having an affair with your student, even if you're trying to call it off, do you look for the dirty photo that she left you in the middle of class?
No, I think you just kind of pray that it's not in any of the materials that you're using during class, and every time you have to pick up a book or whatever for the class, you make for damn sure you'll leave through it.
You come in early. You come in early, you stay late. Yeah. You figure it out that way. You do this little weird song and dance in class. It's just...
And you're obviously distracted.
Yeah, no, it's not good.
It's MTV.
But going back to Riley, he pairs them up into groups to practice a scene together, which actually I thought made for a lot of really good conversations. That's how Emma ended up being paired up with the sheriff's son, and that's where the whole thing about the case files came from. And actually, Brooke had a very interesting conversation with, I want to say his name is Jake? Guy who I really don't care about also.
Yeah, there's most of those.
Yeah, but...
I care about more of the women, or at least I remember more of the women than I do the guys. The guys are like, dead guy, dead guy's friend,
not
dead
Billy
guy's
Loomis.
other friend, sheriff's kid.
I was going to say, I think we have our not Billy Loomis in the form of Emma's boyfriend
yeah.
and our not Stu actually in the form of this guy that Brooke got paired up with. And he actually brought up a very interesting conversation with her in terms of how do you know whether you're the cat or the mouse.
That's true.
And
they mentioned a video of a bobcat just winging a shark out of the water, and I'm like, I have never seen this video before in my life. I feel like it would have crossed my Tumblr dash at least once, because that's the kind of thing Tumblr loves.
I mean, this show is very savvy when it comes to horror stuff, when it comes to television and movies. When it comes to talking about the internet, that's where it's like, you're cute for trying.
And then again, we also had an ongoing joke about, we're going to reenact scenes from 50 Shades of Grey. And it's like, please give it a rest. You're really not making me care about you. You're making me actively hate you.
But I think that, again, it's the point. We'll talk about his character a little bit. But with this whole, how do you know whether or not you're the cat or the mouse, brings up an interesting dynamic and actually acts as pretty good foreshadowing. Emma thought she could outfox Ghostface, and that wasn't the case.
Not the case at all.
Why
wouldn't you warn Riley? By the way, there's stuff going down. You need to stay
next to a cop because there is a killer outside. Probably he may already be inside the station.
I almost feel like there weren't any cops at the station. Just
there were. Yeah, there were a few cops.
Why would you not grab a cop on the way out and say, "Hey, I saw"? Okay, well, she's the one who didn't want to turn him in. It makes sense.
It was very much what we were talking about last time, in that it was very much using Tyler as this distraction method, and his car, and the possibility that he was still alive, even though he's definitely not.
Well, according to the previews, we saw that they recovered the body, so the body was probably in the car.
Yeah, no.
But they haven't found his head.
Kind of important.
jacuzzi stuff.
Which, that must have been hard to, like, fish that out. I'm just picturing Ghostface, like, having to get the little pool net to, like, get the head out of the... Just like, man,
put some of the powder stuff in there to clean the pool and get the chlorine going, and
Stupid.
I'm wondering, though, that's a really, really early to burn that red herring. Because...
Not necessarily,
I think he could have gotten a couple more uses out of it.
Well, and... We're not done yet, though. People are, like, the fact that Tyler is dead, yeah, they can still pin what happened to Riley onto Tyler, but now moving forward, anything he does, he has to find another scapegoat for. So he's either to the point where he doesn't need a distraction anymore, or doesn't care.
I honestly think that's why he could have kept the Tyler ruse going for a little while.
Or has another distraction in mind already. Has another fall guy set up. Because if there's one thing Ghostface is pretty good at, it's actually setting up a fall guy. And so that's probably the plan, is that now that Tyler is officially, at least from the police perspective, gone, that the next step in his plan is to set up a fall guy, possibly Emma's father, like they did in Scream 1.
Emma's father in Scream 1 was the damsel in distress, and it was amazing.
Sydney's father.
Sydney's father in Scream. Bleh.
It's okay. Emma's are not Sydney.
It's 1 in the morning. I am exhausted.
It's been a long day.
It's like, why does Katie keep yawning in the video? Because it's 1 in the morning.
What I do appreciate about bringing up the cat and mouse thing again is the fact that the tables were turned very much on Ghostface in the first film, and at one point, not spoilers. I mean, we've only been talking about it for however many minutes.
Yeah.
But Sydney takes on. She puts on the mask. She uses the voice modulator, and starts toying with. Yeah, and starts toying with them right after they think they've won. And so I can't help but think that, again, that this isn't a little bit more foreshadowing. So, yeah.
Oh, it's totally going to turn. I'm going to call it episode 9.
Oh, yeah, no.
Because I feel like we're going to have a hell of a lot of climax in episode 9. And we're going to have... Because, Scream always does action, and then a little bit of breathe, and then more action, and then...
Not in my movie.
Yeah.
I
was even just thinking of 1, not necessarily 4.
I actually kind of disagree with that guess. I know it's still really early because it's only the 3rd episode, but based on because I interviewed some of the cast members.
How many episodes are there in the season?
10.
There are 10.
But based on what it's
a 15-episode season. Why are we getting the climax in episode 9?
Based on what I was told at Comic-Con, they're hoping that the mystery itself goes into next season.
Oh, damn.
That this particular season isn't going to be a standalone, that we're still with this set of characters into next season.
I was sincerely hoping that they do what Heroes was supposed to do.
Standalone.
Wrap it at the end of the season. A new place, later on in the same place, but with a few new characters. Just something. Feel free to bring the old characters back, but don't make it about them. Make them the people that come in episode 4 or 6 or whatever. Have one of them
basically do what Heroes Reborn is doing.
Yeah. Well, Heroes Reborn has actually kept a lot of the canon from Heroes and is doing a time skip and a lot of the same characters. Season 2 was supposed to be whole new, same world, same time,
completely
whole
different
new set of people, maybe occasional cameos from characters from first season.
When it's warranted,
Exactly, that's what I'd love to see Scream do. Someone calls Not Randy and goes, there's stuff going down. He's like, okay, here's the advice for this.
Well, the benefit, again, of this being Ghostface is that anybody can take up the mask.
Exactly.
And so it's very possible that we could get our quote-unquote killers at the end of this season, and it turns out that they're not the mastermind. Because even if you look at Scream as a trilogy, because...
and don't disown certain films in the franchise.
Well, if you look at the first 3 Screams, it was, the 4th one notwithstanding, and kind of disregarding the fact that 3 was written by somebody else entirely, not the same writer as 1 and 2 and 4.
Which you can tell.
They set up Ghostface in that film as the mastermind of the whole thing. he set the killers in the first movie and the second movie on their respective paths. And when that failed... Yeah, no.
Retroactively saying something like that is really hard.
It really is. But, I mean, for a long time, that was our Scream trilogy. That was the way it was. And there are certain things about Scream 3 I like. It's definitely the worst of the franchise. It's definitely a parody of what Scream was always making fun of. But
then we got to perform, and thank goodness that ended it better.
But there are certain things about Scream 3 that I like. Whether or not that's one of them is... I don't know. There are certain things I like about it and certain things I don't. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. Actually, since we were talking about this kid, let's talk about him and Emma's boyfriend a little bit, because what are you doing?
We have a box that evidently used to be filled with money buried in the woods. One of them digs it up, the money's gone, confronts the other. We need to stop whatever the heck it is we're doing. We need to dismantle it because I'm not risking my scholarship and my girlfriend and my everything on this.
It sounds
and
like...
the guy's like, you can't get out. Blackmail was dropped.
It sounds like the four of them. Nina, Tyler, these other two guys, Jake and Will, I want to say their names are.
Bob and Joe, Fred and George.
Basically, not Stu and not Billy. So, basically the two of them and Tyler and Nina, they were involved in something, and it sounded like Nina...
But it sounds lucrative.
Yeah, and it sounded like Nina was definitely holding something over both of their heads and would pit them against each other. I guess because she thought it was fun.
She's just a winner.
So that makes me wonder if it's like drugs or if it's like some sort of porn industry. I don't know, because Will definitely expressed a lot of concern about online content linking him to Nina. So that's what makes me think that it's possible that he had a sex tape of the two of them and that she was like blackmailing him as a result, and so they had to find a way of getting money in order to pay the blackmail, and maybe drugs was involved with that. I don't know, that's all speculation, but whatever it is, they were clearly up to something that is clearly illegal and potentially will ruin Will's life.
It looked like it was
secretly.
Super lucrative.
Which makes me think drugs. I can't think of much else that, a high schooler would be able to do.
In the world
super
of
lucrative.
YouTube and image searches, bootlegging porn is just not.
Yeah, I don't think that's a super lucrative
unless you're
business.
doing horrifyingly illegal porn that's horrifyingly illegal for reasons.
And
I can't see them addressing that on the show.
There's also the possibility that they were just blackmailing people left and right, like getting internet secrets.
Search histories.
Yeah, and like...
Internet secrets!
Jake, and I keep saying Jake because that's a question mark, I think that's his name.
That guy?
But he's a jerk, but and he doesn't seem like the sharpest tool in the shed, but he is computer savvy.
Yeah.
They've established him as he is somebody who knows his way around the internet and his way around a computer. So it's possible that he's like stealing people's online information, possibly even stealing their identities, and that they're blackmailing them, and that's how they're making their money. That's a possibility. I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Like I said, my initial thought is drugs.
I think that makes a little more sense.
Point being, they're either setting them up... I feel like they're very much being set up as red herrings right now. I don't buy that either of them are Ghostface at the moment, but as you said, it's still too early to rule anybody out.
I can see the one who really wants the money going for actually killing someone, but not doing it under the Ghostface mantle.
Yeah, and Will, he was even ready to pull a knife on the other guy, and the way Jake was holding the shovel, it was like, are you going to swing that?
And then Will had the knife hidden in his belt at his back, so that was...
So yeah, no, they could do it. They could very well end up killing each other as something completely unrelated to what Ghostface is doing.
That problem would be gone forever.
Yes, it would. Okay, so we talked about that. We talked about poor Riley. I was really rooting for her and Noah. They were great.
They were super cute.
They were. And
They got her in the leg, and I thought that was smart because it's the femoral artery. Is that how you say it? That huge, huge artery that runs in your leg, and if you cut it and you don't get immediate medical treatment, you can bleed out in 2 minutes flat. So that's what happened.
And I really loved all the stuff with her and Noah in this episode. Again, I predicted it last time that she was definitely going to die because...
We liked her too much.
Yeah, we did. But she, at the same time, she wasn't somebody with main character written all over her.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate. But she was interesting. She was cute and she was funny and she was very much likable, and even Ghostface referred to her as the good one.
The good one.
And
our other option was Brooke, who had responded to a text that she thought was from the teacher and wasn't, and wound up in a hotel room having handcuffed herself to the bed wearing a negligee and waiting to have some good times.
Has a whole new meaning to the word anticlimactic. I did think that was funny.
That was pretty
funny. And
you're in danger. No, it's too safe.
I did, as much as I was rooting for Riley to make it out okay, I did feel a little bit bad for Brooke just because she was going to be there for hours. So, but that being said, it's
those
no,
sexy
Riley.
Toy handcuffs, you can just, they're not difficult.
Yeah, but she was still waiting there for a bit. She's like, huh.
Anyway,
just
we should
hanging
probably
out.
wrap. It's 1:30
Yeah,
in the morning.
it's definitely late. But yeah, poor Riley. She was awesome, and
we have a Scooby gang assembled for next episode. Who's going to go investigate things?
Yeah, it looks like Noah and Audrey, and that's the other thing is that Emma told Audrey in this episode at Rachel's wake that she didn't kill herself.
Not suicide.
And so they're very much gathering together in the next episode to go and find out who did this, because it's very clear that none of this is coincidence at this point. Yeah.
No.
And I'm not a fan of Brooke, but she was absolutely right. I vote police.
Yeah.
Yep.
When your missing friend texts you for help and he's a suspect in a murder case, you go, why do you need to turn yourself in?
Police.
I love you. I do. You gotta turn yourself in.
Yep, that was good. Well, so this episode was really good. Really suspenseful. A lot of really good stuff in this one, and I like where this is going. You made a point. Emma is much more interesting now.
Yeah, she is. It's better for characters like her when they are so close to someone who is very much involved. When you keep them out of the loop, it prevents them from having something to do. So once you've gotten them in there one way or another, either voluntarily or thrown in head first, it's so much better. It's so much more interesting to give them the information and see them react and see them deal with it and see them continue on knowing this new stuff and having it shape their thoughts and words and actions, as opposed to sitting here on the other side of the fourth wall going, she's in the same house, she doesn't know a damn thing, and she just delivered a heart in a box to her mom. Oh my God, just get a clue. And then she got all of the clues, and
was able to put it together.
Yeah.
She's smart, she's resourceful, not smart enough to save her friend, unfortunately, but
if we're working with two ghost faces here, she's hosed either way.
Yeah, there was no right answer. Yeah. And again, Ghostface likes to play games that no one can win.
And occasionally teleport.
Because magic? Because of movie magic? I don't know.
Jump cuts.
Yeah, I guess the magic of jump cuts. So yeah, I very much appreciate that. And final thought was that the person is not going by Ghostface. He's actually taken up the name of the boy from 20 years ago? 1994.
A while ago.
From 1994. He's actually taken up that name, which makes me think that, again, it's not that guy, that it is very much somebody using that to cover their tracks or who has some connection to him.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a family affair.
Yes. Anyway, that just about wraps it up. Any final thoughts?
I actually enjoyed this episode. I'm still terrible at remembering people's names. I just am. There's
Don't
so
worry,
many people, and
we're gonna thin the herd. We're thinning the herd.
Yeah. That doesn't mean I don't need to remember who died, so I can figure out who's blackmailing who and whose head wound up in the pool and who may or may not be missing. Anyway.
I feel really bad, actually,
now
that I'm remembering. I actually asked the actor who plays Noah, I was like, hey, he's got a little romance going on with Riley at Comic-Con. Whoops.
He did. Past tense.
That was nice while it lasted.
Anyway.
I'm
actually interested now.
Yeah, I like how it's picking up, and I hope it keeps doing that. Stay good, show.
Yes.
We're enjoying you.
Yes.
Don't mess it up.
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks so much, guys. We will see you all next time.
See ya.